Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to the Light to the Nations channel. This is a surprise most probably for all of you that are joining. Thank you for joining me today. I didn't give any notice that we were doing this here in the channel, but I had to be direct and honest with you. This is something I have been feeling in my heart for a while already, to initiate a live stream with the study of the cycle of Torah. I had put this somehow back and waiting and just trying to discern if I have to do it or not, on when to initiate it. And, even until 15 minutes ago, I was still praying and trying to listen to Abba's voice if I have to do it or not. And you all know we are not in charge. There's somebody else bigger than us that is in charge of all the actions and decisions. So here we are, and I really hope that we are going to have a blessed study with starting in this book of the Devarim, Deuteronomy. And I think with what's going on in the world today is so important. So important that we study the word of Yahuwah. It's so important that we dig in his word. It's so important that we learn the path of Yahuwah. It's so important that we talk with more people about the way of Yahuwah. And we can find different ways to do it. It doesn't matter that we go and to tell them about the Bible, about the scriptures. Sometimes we just need to share the instructions in a way that people will receive it. And the only way that we are going to be able to do it is with two things. As you can see in the top of my head, is spirit and in truth. It's basically let the Ruach guide us in the way we have to do it and to bring the truth of the word of Yahuwah. So I really hope that you are going to enjoy this study. I haven't prepared it that much. It's just we are going to go through the portion of today. And we're going to see what the Ruach is leading us in this study. For those of you that are joining also Virtual House Church, you are going to repeat again the meal today somehow, if I can say so, and because I'm going to be hosting Virtual House Church as well in Rob's channel. So I hope that you're not going to get tired of me, but let's see. The most important thing is not me, is what we are studying. The most important thing is the word of Yahuwah. And you know me already, and you know that I like music. So I want to share with you a song that I really like. And let's see how Abba is gonna lead us in this study today, in this first edition of the Torah cycle here in Light to the Nations. So here we go.
Abba זכה לנו שמש זכה מרפא בכנפיה זכה לנו שמש זכה מרפא בוא נשאיר את השופט זכה
What a beautiful song. So with the same spirit, I will invite you to close your eyes and let's pray together to Yahuwah. We want to give thanks to you in this moment because you are the one guiding our steps. Thank you, Abba, because it's in your purpose and it's in your wisdom that you have reached out to us and bring us back to you, to your kingdom, to your way. I want to give thanks to you in this moment, especially because you have put in my heart to do this, in my wife's heart as well to do this. And we are just being obedient to your voice. And we want to ask you, Abba, that your presence be with us in this study, that your Ruach can guide us into anything and in everything that you can give us to eat from your word today. We know that the true food is the one coming from you. And as the song said, we put our hope in you. You are our hope. And we know that you never fail. Guide us today in your word. Guide us with your presence and with your Ruach Kodesh. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen. Okay, so let's start, and I'm going to do something that my wife especially asked me to do. And I know why she asked this, because, especially she was looking at information about this brother that was doing these videos. And it seems that his story is a beautiful one. in terms of how, and actually it's an example, I believe. It's an example of how Abba is guiding his servants. And all of us are servants of Yahuwah. And how Abba is guiding his servants for specific purposes. And I'm gonna let her to share the story of this person. She's in the chat, so most probably she can do it, or maybe later in another moment. But I think it's important that when we are getting something in our heart, and that we pray about it, is that we need to be obedient to Yahuwah's voice. Sometimes we are not going to be able to recognize maybe at the beginning, or to be completely sure that he is the one talking to us. This is something that we have to develop, and it's something that we will develop during our entire life. But it's so important that we are obedient, because if he's putting something in your heart, because he has a purpose, his purpose, that he wants to do something through you. And I think in the life of this person is something that we see it clearly. What I'm talking about is the part in 60 seconds. It's a kind of a funny video, but if you learned about the story of this person, you will see that Abba was doing something very special with him. So let me share with you this one. Let me find it here. So here we go. This is a nice summary of this portion.
Shalom and welcome to Parsha in 60 Seconds. Today's portion is from Deuteronomy 1:1-3:22. It is called Devarim. We have now concluded the book of Numbers, and we must venture into Deuteronomy. 40 years have passed since the Exodus, and Moses is giving a big speech. Moses appoints a hierarchy leadership system. The Israelites plan on taking the land and send 12 spies. They find giant fruit and giant warriors. The Israelites hide in their tents out of fear. God throws down on the Israelites, and now nobody except Caleb and Joshua will possess the land. Wandering begins and ends when the sinful generation dies. The Israelites met plenty of people along the way. God tells them not to provoke these people or take their land, with exception to Sihon, the Amorite, king of Heshbon. While passing through Heshbon peacefully, God hardened Sihon's heart, and he attacked and failed. King Og heard the news and came to fight in Bashan and failed. Og was so big that his bedstead was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. The land is then given to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. These tribes were commanded to continue fighting until all the kingdoms west of the Jordan were taken down by God. And that is Devarim in 60 seconds.
Devarim in 60 seconds. This is so nice. It's a very beautiful and funny, time to time summary of the portion. And as we saw here, and we will read together, this is a kind of the book of Devarim completely is a kind of a summary of everything that Israel went through as part of the promise of Yahuwah when he was taking them out of Mizraim from Egypt, and he was guiding them through the wilderness in order to get into the inheritance, get into the promise. And as we saw in this video, they had to face so many things. These big elephants that was somehow a representation of the Nephilim, the giants. They needed to face so many difficulties. They needed to face so big troubles. And and that's why I like so much these portions, because somehow we can discover that we are facing a very similar situation. That sometimes we are going through these big problems, that sometimes we are facing these big mountains. And as the song said, if we really put our hope in Yahuwah, if we really are serving him completely, that's going to be the only way that we are going to be successful. That's going to be the only way that we are going to be able to inherit the promises of Yahuwah. So let me switch the screen here and let me share the scripture with you. So we are going to read together, and we are going to just let the Ruach guide us to see what are going to be the points that we need to highlight. So let's read together. This is in Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 1, starting on verse 1. So it says, these are the words which Moshe spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan in the wilderness, in the desert plain opposite Suf, between Paran and Tufel, and Laban, and Hatzeroth, and this Sahaf, 11 days' journey from Horeb, by the way of Mount Seir, to Kadesh Barnea. And it came to be in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel according to all that Yahweh had commanded him concerning them, after he had stricken Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth in Edrei. Beyond the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moshe undertook to declare this Torah, saying. So, and let me stop there, because we need to understand the scenario. We need to understand when this happened. And you know, Moses is going to give a summary of the events that happened before this declaration from Moses is going to happen. You know, and we will read together what's coming in the next verses, but it's important that we understand that this portion of this message from Moses happened just after the 40 years of the first generation in the wilderness, and happened just before this new generation was going to cross the Jordan in order to inherit the land. It is written, you know, we just saw it in the verse 4, that he provided this message to that generation after they had stricken Sihon and Og. So why this is so important? Because of something that I was feeling in my heart, and I think it's something that we need to learn the example in these days. Let's read a little bit more, and now that we understand the scenario when Moses did this, and let's read a little bit more in order to understand what's the point that I want to make. So let's start and let's read the verse 6 onward. So this is what Moses said. Yahweh, our Elohim, spoke to us in Horeb, saying, you have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and set out on your way, and go into the mountains of the Amorites, and to all the neighboring places in the desert plain, in the mountains and in the low country, and in the Negev and on the sea coast, to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Jacob, to give to them, to their seed after them. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am unable to bear you by myself. Yahweh your Elohim has increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars of the heavens. Yahweh Elohim of your fathers is going to add to you 1,000 times more than you are, and bless you as he has spoken to you. How do I bear your pressure and your burden and your strife myself? Choose men wise and understanding and known to your tribes, and let me appoint them as your heads. And you answered me and said, the words which you have spoken to us to do is good. And I took the heads of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds and leaders of fifties and leaders of tens and officers for your tribes. And I commanded your judges at that time, saying, when hearing between your brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with him. Do not show partiality in right ruling. Hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right ruling belongs to Elohim, and the case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. And let me stop here for a few minutes. It's not exactly the point that I want to make. I'm going to wait a little bit and you will see it. But what Moses is repeating all over the place is that we need to understand the right rulings of Yahweh. You know, when he was commanding these officers in a well-structured way to manage the people, and to, you know, this is for me, in the way that I see it, an example how much order is in the kingdom of Yahweh. You know, Yahweh himself, our Elohim, he put things in order. And just, as an example, just to see how creation works. How creation works, it has a pattern. It works in a perfect pattern. And that's an additional evidence how Elohim works with his people. And we see it here in this portion. When we see some confusion going on, when we see some disorder going on, we can understand that Yahuwah is not there. He likes things to be in order because he acts and he creates things in order. And that's why we see heads over 1,000, over hundreds, and so on, because he wants to lead his people in an orderly way. And in these days that we see, unrighteousness growing and growing, we see the direct commandment from Yahuwah how we have to act. And no matter that this is being directed to the judges that they were appointed at the time, this is also speaking to us in the way that we need to conduct our lives, that we need to judge situations, we need to judge experiences, and even sometimes in those situations and experiences, we have to judge people, or people are being involved in the judgment. We need to do it in a righteous way. And the only way we understand how to judge righteously between a man and his brother, as is written in the verse 16, is by doing it according to the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah. Can you remember what Yahushua was saying? Is that the top priority in our lives is to seek the kingdom of Elohim and the righteousness of that kingdom. So the only way that we are going to be able to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the world, the only way that we are going to be able to shine the light of the kingdom of Yahuwah, being the light of the world, as Yahushua said that we are the light of the world, as he is the light of the world, is being different because we conduct our lives according to the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah, not according to the righteousness of this world. And in today's world, there's so much need of that righteousness, because unrighteousness, is going and growing and growing all over the place. And sometimes we need to be honest with us, because Yahuwah knows everything. He knows our thoughts and he knows our hearts. Sometimes we get entertained, myself included, because I'm not nobody special, I'm just like you, into everything that's going on in the world. And we get entertained on the discussions that's happening in the world. And sometimes we take a side of what's going on. And we know that there are so many things going on in the world today. But Yahuwah is calling us. Yahuwah is calling us to judge things according to his own eyes, to judge things according to his righteousness, and to act according to that righteousness. This is exactly what we need to do, and this is exactly what Moshe, is instructing the people. He was not able to bear the entire load of leading these numerous people. Sometimes we are not able to take that load because it's too heavy. But that's why Yahushua is with us. That's why Yahushua, our Mashiach, is telling us that he is there beside us, helping us to bear that load. And if we have that support and we have that help, we are going to be able to do it. We are going to be able to do it. And, not showing partiality. This is exactly what's happening in the world. There's so much corruption going on in different aspects of society today. And that's why we want to shine. We need to follow this exactly same instructions. And, it's so important that we are not following only the instructions, that sometimes, we believe that we need to speak and we need to provide some message to the people in order to bring them to the light of the path of Yahuwah. Sometimes it's not necessary. It's just a matter to show with our actions, in the way we conduct our lives. By showing with our actions, they will see something different in you and me. And that different is because we are following the way of Yahuwah and the way of his kingdom. So let's continue reading. It says in the verse 18, and I commanded you at the time that all the works which you should do. Then we set out from Horeb and went through all that great and awesome wilderness which you saw on the way to the mountains of the Amorites, as Yahuwah our Elohim had commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, you have come to the mountains of the Amorites, which Yahuwah Eloheinu our Elohim is giving us. See, Yahuwah our Elohim has set the land before you. Go up and possess it, as Yahuwah Elohim of your father has spoken to you. Do not fear, nor be discouraged. And all of you came near to me and said, let us send men before us, and let them search out the land for us, and bring back word to us of the way by which we should go up, and of the cities into which we should come. And the matter was good in my eyes, so I took 12 of your men, 1 man from each tribe. You know, I always wondering why Moses accepted, and he was seeing this with good eyes, this request from the people. What could happen if Israel was hearing this instruction, as it is written in verse 21, and deciding to go ahead without questioning, just trusting in Yahuwah? Go ahead directly. Maybe the entire story was going to be totally different. And we know what happened later on, and it is written here in this summary that Moses is providing to this generation. What happened with these 12 spies. And I think it is speaking a lot to us, and somehow it's connected to what I was sharing with you at the beginning on why we are doing this in this broadcast. That, by the way, the idea, and you need to keep me in your prayers, is just to expand it a little bit more, and to do it maybe a little bit earlier on Shabbat. But I will keep you posted for the next one with that earlier notice for sure. But what's the point here? Is that if Yahuwah is providing us a message, if Yahuwah is guiding us with a word directly in our hearts within us, or a word that he's providing through another person, we need to remove any doubt. And it's not easy, I know. But we need to remove any doubt. And we need to trust in Yahuwah completely. And we need to do. It's not only to believe and to remove doubt. We need to do. And at the moment we do, doubt is going aside and going out immediately. So, I think it is a perfect example that this is exactly what Yahuwah is expecting from all of us. That at the moment he's guiding us to do something, we need to do it. Because he will manifest himself with his purposes at the moment we act according to his instruction. Sometimes the situations that Yahuwah is orchestrating is something that we cannot comprehend with our mind. Because this is something I'm always wondering as well, is that it is that Yahuwah is turning bad things in good things. And sometimes we have seen many stories about that. Or it could be that Yahuwah is seeing the big picture and he's allowing some bad things happening because the only way that good things will happen at the end plan is by his people experiencing those bad things. Let me give you an example. We know how the story will end up here because we know, and we have read this so many times about the 12 spies. We know what was the punishment for that generation. So Could it be that maybe Elohim, Yahuwah Elohim, was allowing this to happen because his purpose to be completed and to be fulfilled needed this to happen? This is one option. And the other option, maybe this situation wasn't like he was thinking, but he turned it in a positive one. I really believe that is the first option. I really believe that those things that sometimes happen and I would say that I have experienced this in my own life, having through some difficult situations and difficult experiences. And I remember I was sharing with people in the past about this, is that when we go through difficulties, when we go through troubles, we are so focused like this and in the situation, especially when it's so difficult. And our mind revolve on those thoughts related to what we are experiencing in that moment. And we are not able to see beyond. But Yahuwah is so wise. Yahuwah is so good that after we have gone through that situation, and maybe sometimes with years, when we are able to look back, we see that we needed to go through those experiences because that was the only way to get to the point in the future where we are getting closer to Yahuwah. So, it's my belief that everything that's happening in our lives, even in this case on what Israel needed to go through, was part of the plan of Yahuwah because his intention, his purposes are higher to our purposes. His thoughts are not our thoughts. And sometimes if we are going through difficulties, we are not able to understand. We just need to seek his face. We just need to wait and rest in him, allowing him to work in us, allowing him to guide us through the valley of shadows of death, helping us, sustaining us, and asking him to reveal his purposes on this situation. I think this is exactly what was happening with the Israel back then. So let's continue reading. It says in the verse 24, and they turned and went up into the mountains and came to the Wadi Eshkol and spied it out. And they took some of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us. And they brought back word to us saying, the land which Yahuwah our Elohim is giving us is good. But you would not go up and rebelled against the mouth of Yahuwah your Elohim, and grumbled in your tents, and said, because Yahuwah was hating us, he has brought us out of the land of Mizraim to give us into the hand of the Amorites, to destroy us. Where are we going to? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to the heavens, and we saw the sons of the Anakim there too. Then I said to you, have not dread or fear of them. Yahuwah, your Elohim, who is going before you, he does fight for you according to all he did for you in Mizraim, Egypt, before your eyes. And in the wilderness, where you saw how Yahuwah, your Elohim, has borne you as a man bears his son, in all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet in this matter you are putting no trust in Yahuwah, your Elohim, who is going before you in the way to seek out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way you should go, in fire by night and in a cloud by day. So, this is exactly what I was highlighting before. And, most probably I'm going to speak a little bit more about this in the portion of Virtual House Church in 2 Samuel, if it's the will of Yahuwah to do so, is that, the only fact that these people, these tribes, were saying this, that our brothers in the verse 28 have made our hearts melt, is because of two things. First thing And the first answer from my point of view is what is written in the verse 32. What Moses answered them, saying, in this matter you are putting no trust in Yahuwah your Elohim. So first thing, when we're going through those difficulties, our mind, our flesh is pushing us in trusting in us, not trusting Yahuwah. Because we trust in our senses, in what we see, what we hear, what we understand, and what we think. But trusting in Yahuwah, it means that we need to go beyond that. And that's why it's crazy sometimes for other people when we do things that are not logic to other minds. So that's the first point, is not trusting in Yahuwah. But there is a second point that I see here that is connected to the first for sure. Is that instead of trusting in Yahuwah, we trust in men. We trust in women. And sometimes we trust in ourselves. Every time that we do that, every time that we put our trust in men, we failed. Every time that we put our trust in us, we fail. That's why we need to put our trust in Yahuwah. He never failed. And I do believe that's the inner battle we have in our minds. All the time, day by day, minute after minute, is that we have this battle in our mind between two positions, trusting in our senses, trusting in other people, trusting in ourselves, or trusting in Yahweh Elohim, trusting in what we don't see, trusting in what we don't hear. And, and most probably you have experienced this. This is something that's happening every day, day after day, in every moment of our lives. And that's why, this is a walk. We're walking in this way. Every time that we are walking in a way, in a path, we are moving ahead and we are making decisions along with progress. And this is not different. The way of Yahweh is not different to that. I remember I used this example with people in the past, is that what is a way? A way is basically something that is connected one point to the other. It's something that is helping us to go from point A to point B. And in order to get to point B, it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter only that we know that we have this route that is connecting the 2 points. Is that we need to take the action. We need to walk in order to use the facilities of this route that is giving us to connect and to move from point A to point B. We need to walk. We need to do something. We need to act. We need to walk. And maybe because of the distance, we are not able to see what's in this route. Maybe we will find some batches. Maybe we will find some stones. Maybe it's going to be a very soft path time to time. Maybe it's going to be sometimes difficult. Maybe we need to jump sometimes in order to, because there's some disaster in the route that we are not able to see from point A. So the first is to make the decision to move from point A to B, to walk. But at the moment we find these difficulties, we need to make an additional decision. I'm going to look back, as Israel was doing, remembering Mizraim, Egypt, almost cursing Yahuwah, that Yahuwah was hating them, and that's why he was bringing them into the wilderness, because he wanted to kill them. Just living according to their eyes, their own understanding, their ears, and not seeing beyond the invisible world. So when we find those difficulties, and a difficulty could be, an experience a difficulty most of the time is in us, in our mind. Is the moment that we need to make the decision. And remember the decision we made a long time ago to walk this way, because our purpose and our objective, our target, in the same way that we are reading here in Israel, they were going from point A, Egypt, slavery, to point B, the promised land, the inheritance. We need to remember what Yahuwah did for us. We need to remember the decision we made to trust in Yahuwah completely, and to make that decision once again in order to jump and skip those difficulties in the way. And the difficulties in the way, we will find it day by day. And it's a way that Yahuwah is helping us to create his character in us, is to prepare us to be at the stature of Mashiach, serving Yahuwah completely, being echad with Yahuwah. And the only way we are going to be able to be like that is by facing those situations. And nowadays, there are so many opportunities. Most of the people like to talk about, instead of challenges and problems, to talk about opportunities. And I think it's a right way to do it, to say it, to see it. Every time that we find a situation, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to develop the character of Mashiach, to develop the heart of Yahuwah. And we can grumble, we can complain in our tents in the same way that Israel was doing here. But in one moment, we need to close our eyes. We need to shout our mouth and our mind and our thought, and just to let Yahuwah speak to us. Just to let Yahuwah to remember, to keep us remembering what he had done for us. Actually, this is exactly what Moses did. Remember what Yahuwah has done for you. Remember how you went out from the slavery, and how Yahuwah has been with you, guiding you in the way. So I think it is a perfect example for us, especially the days that we are living. Let's continue in the verse 34. And Yahuwah heard the voice of your words and was wroth, and took an oath, saying, not one of these men of this evil generation shall see that good land, of which I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb ben Jephunneh, son of Jephunneh. He shall see it, and to him and his children I give the land on which he walked, because he followed Yahuwah completely. And we know here is the example and the difference. Two types of people. One person that is a good soil, and other type of person that is not a good soil. Maybe it's a rocky places, or something in the sideway, as if we remember the parables of Mashiach. But here we have the perfect example. Somebody that is trusting Yahuwah completely. I picture Caleb and maybe Joshua ben Nun as well, like this type of people that every time that they were going through difficulties, for sure those thoughts, because they were the men like us, human beings like us, these thoughts were coming to their minds, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of untrust, and so on. But they have the strength enough in Yahuwah. They were strong enough in Yahuwah to not let those thoughts to get inside their hearts, is to remove them completely. And the only way to do it is by trusting in Yahuwah. I don't imagine them with a clean or clear mind, not having these attacks from, the spirit of the Nephilim, because they are surrounding us, trying to make us stumble. They were receiving exactly like all the others, these attacks from the enemies. But they were trusting in Yahuwah. And how? Trusting in Yahuwah. By not let those thoughts, not let those attacks going inside them. And we know this is not an easy thing to do. We all fail. No. Lately, I have been going through a kind of heaviness in my heart. And most probably, this is because of what's happening in the world. That's the way that I see it. And when I'm saying that what's happening in the world, yeah, one thing is what we see with our eyes, what we hear that's going on, but we always need to look beyond of what we see. And I do believe this heaviness is happening in many of us. And if it's happening to you, maybe you are gonna feel touched on what I'm saying. It's because of the spirit of the Nephilim, it's because of the demonic work happening in our days. So Caleb and Joshua were going through exactly the same situation. The 12 spies went to spy the land. All of them, the 12 of them, saw the land. The 12 of them saw the giants. The 12 of them saw the big walls. The 12 of them saw this big trouble ahead of them. The 12 of them knew what was the word and instruction of Yahuwah, that here is the land, go possess it. The 12 of them were seeing it, hearing, and thinking. But only 2 of them were strong enough in order to decide not to live according to our senses. Is to live according to belief. Is to live according to trust in Yahuwah, trusting in Yahuwah. So, what we need to do in our days, and again, it's not easy. That's why both of them are so good examples. Something that we need to imitate. That is totally normal that we are going through those way of thinking. It's totally normal that we are doubting. It's totally normal that sometimes we feel that heaviness. But it's not normal for us that we have decided to walk in this way, is that we get engaged for so long in the heaviness, that we engage so long in this lack of hope. To the contrary, we need to remove those thoughts as soon as possible, and the way to do it is just to get closer to Yahuwah in praying and fasting. And if it's necessary, to do it frequently, because darkness is so heavy currently, we need to do it, and we need to seek Yahuwah more often during the entire day, just to repeat ourselves in what Yahuwah has done for us. That's the only way, taking this armor of Elohim on us, is the only way that we are going to be able to fight this battle. Is the only way that we are going to be able to have the necessary shield of Elohim in order to defeat those forces. And this is exactly what we need to do. Not trusting in what the people is saying. Not trusting in men. No matter that the Yahuwah is putting, as we saw here in this portion, he's setting people to be head. This is the way that Yahuwah works. But if we put our trust in men, I have seen this in my life as well, we will fail. We need to respect the authorities, but our trust needs to be in Yahuwah. Our eyes needs to be in Yahuwah. So let's continue reading. And Yahuwah was enraged with me for your sakes, in the verse 37, saying, you do not go in there either. Yahushua ben Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in there. Strengthen him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit. And your little ones and your children, who you say are for a prey, who today have no knowledge of good and evil, they are going in there, and to them I give it, and they are to possess it. But you turn and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. Then you answered and said to me, we have sinned against Yahuwah. We ourselves are going up, and we shall fight, as Yahuwah our Elohim commanded us. But it was too late, and even by doing this, they were rebelling against Yahuwah. And when it says in the verse 41, and when each one of you had girded on his battle gear, you were ready to go up into the mountain. And Yahuwah said to them, do not go up, nor fight, for I am not in your midst, lest you be smitten before your enemies. And we know what happened. They were smitten, because Yahuwah was not with them. And this is so important, because every time that we are obedient to what Yahuwah is telling us to do, we need to be certain that He will be with us. We need to have that certainty in our heart that He will be beside us. And any trouble that we will face in that moment, we are gonna win the battle. Yahuwah will make a door for us to cross and to skip those troubles. Or He will give us the strength in order to face the difficulties and face the giants in our lives. But when we decided later when it's too late and Yahuwah is not in our midst, we're going to fail. Let's continue reading. So I spoke to you in the verse 43, but you would not listen and rebelled against the mouth of Yahuwah and acted proudly, and went up into the mountain. Then the Amorites who dwelt in that mountain came out against you and chased you as beasts do, and drove you back from Seir to Hormah. And you returned and wept before Yahuwah, but Yahuwah would not listen to your voice, nor give ear to you. So you dwelt in Kadesh many days according to the days that you dwelt. So, one point that I was just reserving to the end. No, I will share it at the end. Let's read the verse 2. Let's read the verse 2. We see disobedience and what it means to not to be obedient to Yahuwah. We see that Yahuwah is waiting for us to trust in Him. He's expecting us to trust in Him at all time. And if we don't do it, for sure He's compassionate. And we see His compassion here when He saw that they were disobedient, and after they wanted to go and be obedient to His word when it was so late, He was compassionate, telling them, don't go, because you are going to be smitten. He was trying to save them of losing the battle. So Yahuwah is always compassionate, but in this case He made an oath of not letting this first generation to go into the land. And we know that oath, according to the word of Yahuwah, is something important. If we vow something, we need to do what we vow. So let's continue reading the verse 2. It says, then we returned and set out into the wilderness, the way of the Sea of Reeds, as Yahuwah spoke to me, and we went round Mount Seir many days. And let me share something that just He's putting in my heart. Sometimes we feel in our lives that we are going backwards. That sometimes we feel in our lives that we are not progressing. So those are the two situations that we are feeling that we are stuck and not progressing. And sometimes it's even worse that we are feeling that we are going backward. And we see exactly this situation happening with Israel. They got to the point that they needed to start conquering the land. But what happened? They were disobedient. And the result of disobedience, it was that they started to go backward. They went back to the point A, where they were waiting in Horeb, in the mountain of Elohim. All this progress they made until the point to start conquering the land, it was gone. They needed to go back. So I think this is speaking to us as well. If we are feeling this, that we are not making progress, if we are feeling that we are going backward, it could be that maybe we're being disobedient to Yahuwah in certain areas of our lives. And this is something that we need to pray about it. And we need to ask Abba to give us the discernment and the revelation to understand what's happening. And at the moment we have the light from Yahuwah to understand what's happening, is the moment to make a decision. As I was telling you previously, when we're walking and we find these batches or any difficulty, it's again the moment to decide and to remember what Yahuwah has done for us, and to remember the decision we made, and to decide once again to continue to make progress, to remove anything that is not letting us progress on the way. It's removing sin from us. And this is exactly what happened to Israel. They were transgressing the word of Yahuwah. Because of sin, they went backward. Yahuwah is so good to us that He's giving us the examples from our forefathers to understand how we have to walk. And we need to remember, in these times, we are like that generation. Yahushua, no Yahushua ben Nun, but Yahushua HaMashiach, is coming to lead us on crossing the Jordan to conquer the land. We are in the wilderness now. And we need to do our effort not to do and not to follow the same examples of this generation. Because if we do that, we are going to go backward. And we are not going to inherit the promises. But Yahuwah is so good, so compassionate, and He loves us so much, is that He is always giving us the opportunity to do this analysis, to check what is our inner status, what are our inner thoughts. And sometimes maybe we are being disobedient in areas that we have not realized. But has to be our prayer that Yahuwah can open our understanding. It should be our prayer for Yahuwah to give us the strength to understand what is in our life that we need to remove. You know, when you're working in a project or when you are in a situation that the decisions needs to make, especially, you know, when you're working in a project, in any type of project, you find many difficulties along the way. Maybe at the beginning you were going to start with all your strength, with all your ideas or objectives, with all the mood to start and move forward, being joyful, happy, and so on. But along the way you are going to find difficulties that maybe will remove the joy from your heart on the project you are working on. And it will depend on you if you will keep up the good move, if you will keep up the strength in order to continue with this project. But, you know, at work I have seen this situation happening always, is that what is normal to happen is that at the last mile, when you are almost to complete the project, is when the more difficult it is to do it. You know, when you are running a race, you can start with all your strength, but when you are just missing the last mile, is when the most of the people failed. It's the same with projects, and it's the same with any area of our lives. So it's in those moments when we need to put more heart. It's in those moments when we need to put more strength. And if we want to think and to extrapolate this example to the way of Yahuwah and his kingdom, in this moment that we are living now, there's no doubt in my heart, and most probably in your heart, that we are living in the end times, in the last days. There's no doubt. We don't know how many years, we don't know how many days, we don't know how many months. That part we don't know yet. But what we know, that we are in that season. That the promises of Yahuwah to his people, according to the mouth of all his prophets, are being fulfilled. And the conquering of the land and the kingdom of Yahuwah being established is going to happen very soon. We are that generation that is in the last mile. So if we are in the last mile, we need to put all our heart, we need to put more strength, more heart, in order to complete the task. Not easy at all, sure. But can you imagine if we don't put the heart, we don't put an additional strength, if we don't put the focus again on what is ahead of us and what's our target, our north, what will happen is exactly what happened to this generation, that they went backward because they lost the strength and they lost the trust at the end. Instead of following the example of Caleb and Joshua, that they decided to put additional strength, additional trust, additional heart in the last mile. And that's why they received this award, to be the only ones from that generation that was removed by Yahuwah. They were the only one to receive the promise and to inherit the land, because they put more trust in the last minute. And this is exactly what we have to do. It's not easy. Again, we are going through different spiritual attacks that sometimes is being experienced as well in the physical world. Troubles, difficulties, different type of fights, persecutions, and so on. But in those moments is when we need to trust the most. Let's continue reading. And Yahuwah spoke to me, saying in the verse 2, "You have gone around this mountain long enough. Turn northward and command the people, saying, You are about to pass over into the border of your brothers, the descendant of Saul, who live in Seir, and they are afraid of you. So be on your guard. Do not strike with them, for I do not give you any of their land. No, not so much as one footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. What food you buy from them, with silver you shall eat, and also what water you buy from them, with silver you shall drink. For Yahuwah your Elohim has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He has known your wandering through this great wilderness. These 40 years Yahuwah your Elohim has been with you. You have not lacked any matter. That's the way that Yahuwah is sustaining us even in these days. That's why we need to trust in Him, even that we see that we're in a wilderness without food, or food shortages that maybe will come, or the economic disaster and so on. We need to trust in Yahuwah that He is going to be the one providing to our needs, because today He is the one providing to our needs. And we need to acknowledge it's because of Him and what He has created, no matter that human beings are participating in this process. especially, with all the industrialization that has happened throughout the years, we are intervening and participating even more in the process. But if we go to the bottom line, and the original thing is that Yahuwah is the one that is letting the earth and the soil to produce food, letting the trees to produce food. And why? Because he created this ecosystem in this earth that belongs to him to produce food in abundance. So if we acknowledge and we recognize that if we have food in our tables today, it's not because we have a work, it's not because we have a job, it's not because we have money, it's not because of the industries that are producing those food. For sure, they are participating in that. And for sure, this is part of it's part of how we are getting these things. But if we understand that it's because of Yahuwah that the land is producing food, and we acknowledge that the birds of heavens are not even in need for industries and men to produce food because they're eating directly from the land, we know that is Yahuwah the one providing for our needs. And he's doing it now, and he will do it in any time of problems or troubles. It says in the verse 8, and when we pass beyond our brothers, the descendant of Esau, who dwell in Seir, away from the way of the desert plains, away from Elad and its Salt Geber, we turned and passed over by way of wilderness of Moab. And Yahuwah said to me, do not distress Moab, nor stir yourself up against them in battle. For I do not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the descendant of Lot as a possession. He has prepared a promise, a reward for each one of us. We see it here happening with the descendants of Lot, the descendant of Abraham, Yahuwah, and the descendants of Esau, the descendants of Jacob. He has given a reward, a promise for each one of them. That's why, I would like to see what's going to be my reward, and most probably you as well in the kingdom. So we need to, that's why it's so important that we let the Ruach guide us on what we have to do. This is exactly, and I always ask Abba to guide me in the same way that it's written here, to know where to go, what to do, when to do it. All these big questions is the Abba, the one that can give us and guide us on how to do it. So it says, the Emites had dwelled there formerly, a people as great as and numerous as and tall as the Anakim. They were also reckoned as Rephaites, like the Anakim, but the Moabites called them Emites, or Emites. And the Horites formerly dwelled in Seir, but the descendants of Esau dispossessed them and destroyed them from before them, and dwelt in their place. And Israel did to the land of their possession which Yahuwah gave them. So Yahuwah can use us for different purposes. It wasn't the purpose of Israel to remove the Horites. The purpose of Israel was to remove the Amorites and the 7 nations. But it was the purpose of Esau. And this is very interesting. Understanding the story of Esau is that Yahuwah used Esau for a similar purpose, but with a specific people. So that's why it's so important that we are always listening to what Yahuwah is instructing us to do. Because most probably, the purpose is going to be the same at the end. But he is guiding you to do something specifically and guiding me to do something totally different, specifically as well. But both together, working as a body, we're going to be able to fulfill the purpose and the objective and the target that Yahuwah has in his heart and his mind. Okay? So let's continue reading. Now rise up and pass over the Wadi Seret. So we passed over the Wadi Seret. At the time we took to count from Kadesh Barnea until we passed over the Wadi Seret was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of battle was consumed from the midst of the camp, as Yahuwah had sworn to them. And also, the hand of Yahuwah was against them, to destroy them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. And it came to be when all the men of battle had finally perished from among the people, that Yahweh spoke to me, saying, this is the second chance to see if they were going to be obedient or if they're going to be disobedient as they went at the beginning. They were at the beginning. This day you are to pass over Ard, the boundary of Moab, and when you come near the children of Ammon, do not distress them, nor stiff yourself up against them, for I do not give you any of the land of the children of Ammon as a possession, because I had given it to the descendant of Lot as a possession. That was also reckoned as the land of the Rephites. Rephites formerly dwelt there, but the Ammonites called them Sasumim, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim, but Yahweh destroyed them before them, and they dispossessed them and dwelt in their place. And he had done to the descendant of Saul, who dwelt in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them, they dispossessed them and dwell in their place even to this day. Can you see? Yahweh also was somehow guiding them to dispossess these giant nations. So, you know what's important, the point here that I see, is that we always need to seek for discernment. You remember we were reading about judging with the right rulings. And the only way that we are going to judge with right rulings is by following the discernment of the Ruach of Elohim. In this case, Esau, we see the descendants of Lot. Somehow they were removing part of those giant nations. We know, as I said before, the stories of how these descendants were formed. But even in that situation, Yahuwah was guiding them to do part of what was in his heart. So when we are facing some situations with people that, according to our mind and according to our own righteousness or judging, maybe have been removed from Yahuwah, I'm going to be very, very specific here in my comment. We need to, and we see that they're doing something that somehow is connected to the purpose of the kingdom. We need to put those things in prayer. Sometimes we have the tendency to judge immediately. We have the tendency to judge people without letting the Ruach guide us, without letting the Ruach give us the discernment. I always remember, and this is totally connected to what I'm saying now, what Gamliel said to the Sanhedrin, to the priest, when they saw Kepha and Yehohanan, John and Peter in the book of Acts, delivering the good news, healing the sick and so on. And this person, I don't remember what chapter it is saying, let's wait, let's do nothing. If this is from Yahuwah, if this is not from Elohim, it will disappear in a moment. But if this is from Elohim, let's not find ourselves fighting against Elohim. So, and this is exactly what I see this happening. We need to always act with discernment. We need to be cautious in anything we hear and anything we see. That's the way to live according to faith, trusting in Yahuwah, letting Him guide us with all discernment in His Ruach on judging situation and even judging people. Because as Yahushua said, how we are going to remove all this thing that is in the eye of our brother if we are not seeing what is covered in our own eyes. First we need to look inside and then look in the others. And when we do that, do it with the discernment of the Ruach and judging with the right rulings. It says in the verse 24, Arise, set out, and pass over the Wadi Arnon. See, I have given into your hands Sihon the Amorite, sovereign of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and stir up yourself against him in battle. This day I begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the peoples, under all the heavens, who, when they hear the report of you, shall tremble and shake because of you. If we trust in Yahuwah, this verse 25 is the one that should give us the strength to support any situation. In this society of today, that fear is on the air. If we trust that Yahuwah will put his fear in the people, and the people will fear his people, Israel. Why we need to be afraid? But again, this is something we need to do it all the time, in every moment of our lives, trusting that if Yahuwah is with us, we have nothing to be afraid of. That Yahuwah will put his fear on the hearts of the rest of the people in order to pave the way for us to walk toward the world, toward the north, toward the kingdom. Then I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass over through your land on the highway. I shall go on the highway and turn neither to the right nor to the left. What food you sell me for silver I shall eat, and what water you give me for silver I shall drink. Only let me pass over on foot, as the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir and the Moabites who dwell in Ar did for me, until I pass over the Jordan to the land Yahuwah our Elohim is giving us. But Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, would not let us pass over, for Yahuwah your Elohim hardened his spirit and strengthened his heart to give him into your hand, as it is this day. You see, sometimes troubles, problems, giants are coming to our lives because Yahuwah is letting that happen. He's trying our heart to see if we are faithful to him, if we are really serving him and following him completely, as Caleb did. That's why it's not a challenge, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to show Abba what is in our heart. If we are going through that heaviness in our heart, as I was telling you before, this is the time for us to show Abba our faithfulness to him. If we are going through difficulties and persecution, this is the time to show Abba how much we love him. And again, I want to repeat this because we are in this flesh, we have not been transformed yet as the promise that Yahushua gave us. So now we can be faithful. Now we can say and recognize, Abba, forgive me if I have been with this heaviness, or if I have been going through these difficulties and this battle in my mind. And in our heart, we can feel his presence and that he is cleansing us. But maybe in an hour, in 2 hours from now, we're going to be again, or maybe a day from now, we're going to be again with this feeling of heaviness or issues, or with our mind going to somewhere. In those moments, we need to do it once again. It's the habit that we need to create, that maybe more than ever now, as I was saying, the last mile, we need to put more heart, more strength. And that's the way to do it, fighting with the strength of the word of Yahuwah and his Ruach, this battle in our mind, to win it, and to show by winning it that we are faithful to Yahuwah Elohim. No matter what we face, no matter the giant that we have to face, that we are faithful to him and his promises. And Sihon and all his people came out against us to fight at Yahatz. And Yahuwah our Elohim gave him over to us. So we struck him and his sons and all his people. And we took all the cities at that time, and we put the men, women, and little ones on every city under the ban. We left none remaining. Only the livestock we took as plunder for ourselves, and the spoil of the cities which we captured, from Aroer, which is on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is by the Wadi, as far as Gilad, There was no one city too high for us. And that should be our mindset. There was not one city too high for us. Yahuwah, our Elohim, gave all to us. Only you did not go near the land of the children of Ammon, anywhere along the Wadi Yabok, or to the cities of the mountains, or anywhere as Yahuwah, our Elohim, commanded us. So, we are not going to read the chapter 3. I'm going to let you to read it just to complete this study, because we see that basically they were fighting with this other king, the king Og of Bashan, and they were conquering this land. This is until the verse 22. And they were started to inherit the promised land. And let's read just to finish this study, verse 21 and 22. And I commanded Yahushua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all that Yahuwah your Elohim has done to these two sovereigns. Yahuwah does the same to all the reigns which you are passing over. Do not fear them, for Yahuwah your Elohim himself fights for you. And that's exactly what should be our hope. We have nothing to fear. We have nothing to fear from the system of this world, because Yahuwah Elohim himself is fighting and will fight for us. The only condition is that we trust in him at all time, that we engage ourselves in this battle. There was something that touched my heart, and let me see if I have it here. I saw a comment in a video. It wasn't, it was a political discussion in my country that is going through some difficult times. And I was taking a look in those news just to keep myself informed. And I saw a comment. And it's so funny sometimes. Yahuwah is speaking to us no matter the scenario. And I saw this comment, and I felt that Yahuwah was speaking to me through that. And let me see if I found it here. It's in Spanish. I will translate it to you. I think here it is. And I think this comment is totally connected. It touched my heart. It was last week. It's totally connected to what I have been sharing with you today and what we see happening here on this study. I'm going to read it in Spanish in case of you understand Spanish, and I'm going to translate it. It says, el mal avanza desvergonzadamente en este país gracias a la inacción, silencio y falta de carácter de los justos. El mal se beneficia de la falta de coraje e indiferencia de los justos. Let me translate it to English. It says, evil is progressing without being stopped, without being shameful. It's progressing without shameful in this country, thanks to the inaction, silence, and lack of character of the righteous. Evil is being benefit itself by the lack of courage and indifference of the righteous. When I saw this last week, it was something that Yahuwah pressed a button inside me and put me to think. No matter that this comment was related to the political situation in my country, I think it's beyond that. Evil is progressing in this world. Darkness is progressing in this world. And sometimes we are so inactive. The righteous people of Yahuwah is so inactive. It's keeping silence and letting this to happen. It doesn't say that we need to be active and we need to go and complain and we need to raise our voice and to participate in demonstrations and things like that. No. Yahweh Elohim will guide us through his Ruach in what we have to do in this battle against darkness. But the most important thing, as it is written here in this post that I was reading to you, is that we cannot be inactive, that we cannot keep silence. We, the righteous people of Elohim, we need to judge things and situations according to the right ruling and the truth and the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah. If we keep silence, we are participating on this. So this is exactly what we see in the end of the study. Sometimes we are not saying and we are not raising our voice because of fear. But if we trust in Yahuwah, there's nothing to fear because he will be beside us. The final thought that I want to share with you, and then I was keeping it from the very beginning, and I'm going to close with this. As we saw, in the first few verses, when I was highlighting that we needed to understand the scenario when Moses was giving this message and started to give this message we have been reading from verse chapter 1 till 3, was when this second generation, after the 40 years, was almost ready to cross the Jordan. Okay? And was at the moment that Moses was going to give the post to Joshua, son of Nun, Yahushua ben Nun, to lead the second generation of Israel to pass the Jordan and conquer the land, to complete what the first generation, their fathers, were not able to complete because they were disobedient and they went backward. So he was speaking to the children of Israel, that second generation. And I think it's something that's been in my heart. Most probably I mentioned this in the past as well in Virtual House Church with you. Is that we have a duty with the new generations. We have a duty to share with new generations the story. When we understand that Moses started to relate everything that happened, and he started to relate in first person, telling this generation, the children, the second generation, you did this, you didn't do this, you acted in this way, you disobeyed Yahuwah, and you were obedient to Yahuwah. He was talking to the generation that didn't do that. He was talking to the second generation, to the children that grew up in the wilderness. And he was talking like they were the generation that disobeyed Yahuwah when it was their fathers. So what Moses did, it was to speak to this generation, telling them the story, telling them what happened in the past, telling them why they were there. Oof. Strengthening them by telling them the story, reminding them that they were the generation that they needed to complete the purpose of Yahuwah. We are not telling the story to the new generations. And the new generations, are being bombarded by darkness. Moses is giving us the perfect example here. That he, when it was almost 120 years after he went through all these troubles in the wilderness with the first generation, after he went through all type of challenges and opportunities as well with the first generation, when we saw marvelous things when he saw love, faithfulness, but also sin, transgression, and unfaithfulness and untrust. Being at the last days of his life, he undertook this critical task, is to stand up in front of a new generation and share with them the entire story and engage them in such a way that he was telling the story as if they were that generation that didn't do it, telling them the story with all the details of what happened. So to put in their heart what Elohim they were serving, to put in their heart the strength of Yahuwah, that they needed to fulfill what their forefathers didn't do. I think I see this thought in two ways. One way is that what we need to do for the new generations. They are being lost with everything that's going on. It's just to see the new generation doesn't want to hear about the Bible, doesn't want to hear about Elohim. And that's because we have failed miserably. We have failed. Our generation, all our generation, we have failed to put the feet of Yahuwah by telling the story to the current new generations. But it's never late if we want to fulfill the will of Yahuwah, and He is the one guiding us to do so. So we need to take our part and our task in the same way that Moshe did, and we need to tell the story about Elohim to these generations. That's one way. And the second way, as I said before, we are in the last days and we are that generation that we have our duty to conquer the land. We are that generation that are going to cross the Jordan. So what Moses did is what Yahuwah through Yahushua HaMashiach and the Ruach of Elohim is telling us, is to remember the story. If you remember, I think last week or the week before, I shared the dream I had. It was a Yahuwah through that dream remembering me the first steps in this walk. Most probably you are going through similar experiences. Maybe He's speaking to you not only through a dream, maybe in a totally different way. He's telling you the story once again in order to awake in your heart that feeling and that fire that is needed in order for us to cross the Jordan and conquer the land. We need that fire to ignite on us by remembering the story. And Yahuwah is doing this for us in these days. It's up to us to decide if we are going to hear His voice or if we are going to keep entertaining us with everything that's going in the world. We need to close our eyes, our ears, our mind to what's happening in the world. For sure, we need to keep ourselves informed. But we should not engage. We need to open our eyes, our ears, our mind, what Elohim is telling us. To remember the story and to ignite, in order to ignite that fire in us, to fight the battle and to conquer the land. So with that, I'm finished. It's been a blessing to be sharing with you this message. And now I feel something that my heart much more light because I needed to do this. I needed to be obedient. And I really hope that, this message and this study has been a blessing to you. It's been a blessing to me. And we will continue next week. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but with time, but I will do it. I need to be obedient. So we'll continue next week. I will be posting, most probably with more time, so you can organize yourself in case you can join live, or no, you can watch this study later on. But I think having double or triple portions of studies in Shabbat is a blessing to all of us, and that's the intention. So once again, I want to thank all of you for joining me today. And I will be in Virtual House Church, in the 45 minutes from now in Rob's channel. So let's continue the study over there. And I'm gonna finish, this broadcast. We are gonna listen to the same song again, because I think now with all this study, we need to remember that we need to cry out to Abba, that we need to put our hope in Him, because He is our hope. So with that said, thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. See you in a few minutes in the other channel. Bye.
Abba, Abba, mima karatia. Abba, שמך